Guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Orange County. This is season 18, episode 16. And when I tell you this is a cast full of gutter snipes, nobody in this cast it has clean hands. Probably the only person is Jennifer. Everybody, or Jen, everybody else, they moving shiesty. That's why we got such a good season. That is why this season has been great. And I'm going to be so bummed when next week's episode is the season finale. And then we probably are getting like a 2-part reunion and then it's over. Girl, don't change the cast. Get rid of Alexis, but keep everybody because they put in work. But let's get into this review. Sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy over here, just a little bit. And there's only 3 things I want to talk about. So first up is this blind item that Bravo Snarkside posted, and it says this: the South of LA housewife who never met a producer she did not like or a cause that she could not make a victim is headed for splits with her husband. So I wonder who that is. Now, everybody in the comments were saying Tamra, some people were saying Heather, and some people were saying Emily. Now, I can see Tamra based off of what was said in the beginning of this season, where she was saying that Eddie wanted to live in Big Bear and she wanted to live in Orange County. But I don't remember Tamra being in a lot of causes, so I'm not sure if it's Tamra. I can get why people think it's Heather because this whole season she's been talking about family of equality, but she didn't make herself a victim of family of equality. She was just saying how she got 3 kids. She got a trans son. And I think one of her kids is a lesbian and the other one's bisexual. So that is an organization she should get behind because that affects her family. So I don't remember Heather making herself a victim out of any other organizations because I don't remember Heather being like a charity type person like that. And her and Terry's relationship is like an institution. They were probably silently separate, but I don't know about divorcing because that's a lot of money between them. And Heather is definitely getting half because she's been with Terry since the beginning. And then I'm talking about Emily. The only thing we've heard about Emily is her working with the Innocence Project. But although people say they don't see the love between Emily and Shane, I think they love each other. It's just not what we would. I see they get each other. I think they have like an understanding and a friendship. So I think I'm going to go with Tamra. This could be what the blind item is about. And y'all know blind items are just rumors with no regard, like a grain of salt. Like we don't know if it's true or not. But I thought it was interesting to talk about. So the next thing is Jennifer. Now, I'm not going to read the article, but I'll just give you a summary. So this was also posted by Bravo Snarkside, and they got it from In Touch. It looks like Jennifer's ex-husband, William, is trying to get his child support reduced and get his spousal support terminated. So in the article, William pretty much said that Dawson actually lives with him. So I guess Jen did allow Dawson to go live with his dad. He only pays... How much is it? He only pays $4,674 per month in child support. Mind you, they got 5 kids together. That's cheap. But because Dawson lives with him, he's trying to get his child support reduced to by $587 because I guess that's how much the court said each child was worth in the sense of making up this the total, which was the $4,674. So because Dawson lives with him, William is like, I shouldn't have to pay that. So you need to reduce my child support. He's also trying to get his spousal support terminated because he has to pay Jen $1,735 a month. But he's like, she living with Ryan now. That's going to be her husband, so he should have to take care of her. Now, I don't disagree. Okay, when I say that, I definitely think he needs to be paying more in child support because 5 kids, basically $4,700 is not enough. And y'all live in Orange County. He needs to be paying more. I would think he would at least have to be paying like $10,000 because we talked about kids living in Orange County and then inflation. He needs to be paying more. When it comes to child support, I kind of agree with him. Like, I shouldn't be paying spousal support if you gonna marry another man. Look at Sutton. Sutton gets $300K a month, and I bet you the moment she marries another man, that gets cut off because now you're like that's your husband. I don't have to. No, you know what I'm saying? So I get him wanting to get it terminated. He also is trying to say that Jen has been harassing him because she keeps wanting to have conversations with him and come into his residence. Now, I get him saying that he doesn't want her to come to his house. They should meet up. him trying to say he don't need to meet up with her doesn't make sense when y'all have 5 kids. You're gonna have to build a relationship with that lady. The other part of it was that he feels like Jen has been disparaging him on the show and in her interviews, and they had an agreement in their divorce that they wouldn't talk about each other negatively. So he feels like she violated that clause of their divorce. So I guess their divorce is still ongoing. Like, she's not completely divorced because they're still hashing things out. But if I can find the article, I'll definitely link it in the description box below. And the final thing I want to talk about is the reunion. I'm not impressed by these outfits. I'm not. The only good thing is it's cohesive. It's very, very much cohesive. Honestly, I would say the person that looks the best to me is Katie. I think she looks beautiful in the dress, but it's still not wowing me. It's very meh. But they never wow me when it comes to Real Housewives of Orange County reunion looks. If I do the drama video this week, I'll probably give a more in-depth, like, detailed of like what I think about each outfit. But we got the reunion looks. Let me know whose outfit you like the most. But let's get into this review. So Jen is discombobulated. Her mind's astray right now, okay? Just worked up, all right? And so she's like raging down the hall, and then she pivots around because Heather is like, Jen, come back in here. Because if I was Heather, I probably would have did the same thing, because I'm like, girl, what just happened? Because when I tell you Jen hit a quick drive-by cuss out, she walked into that house just spraying the block. Spraying the block. So Heather is telling Tamra, girl, chill out. Stop clapping, stop laughing. And Tamara's like, well, girl, she yelling at me and I don't even know what the issue is, for real, for real. So then Jen comes back in and she's like, for real, Tamara, I don't even know, like, who you are, like, for real, like, were we ever really friends, because this is what you do. So then Tamara was like, we were not in a good place 2 years ago, and what happened was Shannon contacted me and asked me to look this information up, so I did. And so then Heather's like, well, did you hear what she said, Jen? That, like, Shannon was also a part of this and you're allowing Shannon to, like, rile you up. So Jen don't want to hear none of what Heather got to say. She like, girl, Heather, shut up, because you the one that's been mad this whole entire season about Katie digging up information about you in this whole paparazzi situation. And I agree with Jen. Like, I would have told Heather to like shut up, because at the end of the day, I think Heather is justified in looking at Katie weird, because Katie is being weird. Okay, girl, you don't even know Heather, but you had an issue with her, a premeditated issue with her, and brought it to the show. Because why were you digging up information about this lady and you never really, like, met her or got to know her? So you had a hard on for her. And Jen has every right to be mad at Tamara, because it's like, why are you looking up this information? Like, what's up with all of that? Like, I thought we was friends, I thought we was cool. So Jen ends up saying that Tamara has no soul. Heather's like, girl, that's a bit much. And Jen's like, girl, Heather, I don't care. So then she leaves the room. We then see this scene where Tamara ends up explaining that I guess she said she was working out, and one of Ryan's ex-business partner, or somebody that she used to work with Ryan, was like, I can't believe Ryan is so bold to show his face on TV, especially when he was in this, like, whole fraud scheme where they were having people set up timeshares, or getting people to sign contracts to have timeshares set up in another part of the country, but they never built the timeshares. They were basically taking the HOA money. And so I told Shannon about it, and then Shannon told me to look it up because somebody that she knew wife was attached to it. So they show the text messages, and it says this. Here's the full deposition, and they kind of blurted out. It says, I'm sure that blank's kids have the last name blank, and this is going to come out. So then it says, Eddie said to send this info in writing and production so they can have the paper trail. Apparently, blank is suing blank for back child support. Can your friend look that up? And I guess that was Shannon asking that information. They need to know that Ryan and his ex-partners are dangerous. So then I guess Shannon continued by saying, Beck, that stuff is going to come out, and I don't want to potentially assume that anyone in the family brought it out. I don't know if Ryan went to jail. Blank needs to know what they are dealing with. I'm asking my friend's husband if he can do a background check. So basically, Tamara is saying that Shannon was a part of the conversation, and she was. And here's my thing. I believe that Shannon and Tamara were digging up information on each other. What Gina said at the end of the episode, when that whole situation, when we get there, we'll talk about it, when she was like, Jen and her are collateral damage in the tit for tat that's going back and forth between Shannon and Tamara. I believe it, because you can't tell me that Tamara, Shannon, and Vicky, because they had a whole show called Trace Amigas, wasn't digging up dirt on each other. All of a sudden, now that Shannon and Tamara aren't friends, Shannon is acting like she's oblivious to the stuff that Tamara does. Miss me with that. And I get it, because I saw so many people saying that they didn't believe Tamara. Y'all are full of it. When I tell you y'all are full of it, I get it. People don't like Tamara. That lady is evil. She a gutter snipe. She's all of those things above. But her and Shannon have been friends for almost like 10 plus years. And you gonna tell me they weren't digging up dirt on each other? So I believe what Tamara said about Shannon when it came to Gina. And I believe what Shannon is saying about Tamara when it comes to Jen. They both are shisty people. Y'all just like one other than the other, but they both shisty. Let's call a spade a spade. Jen decides to go to Katie's room to calm down because she needs a real friend right about now. We then see the group break up because, you know, Shannon is going to meet up with her daughters. They took a train from Paris to London. They have a cute little sit down. Shannon talks about how she's not really having a good time on the trip. They talk about dating, so on and so forth. So then we have the group breaking up into threes. So you got Emily, Katie, and Gina going to, Jen going to the pub, the local pub. I would have been like, Jen, give me a Malibu and Coke and call it a day. And so while they're sitting there, that's when Jen tells them about what she, the argument that she just had with Tamara. And she was like, I found out from Shannon that Tamara did a background check on Ryan like 2 years ago. And Emily was like, yeah, that's messed up. But in Emily's confessional, she's just like, at the end of the day, Tamara doesn't respect Ryan. Now, she doesn't respect Ryan and she don't respect Jen. So when Tamara doesn't respect somebody, she don't care. She'll like, she will disrespect you to the fullest. And that's basically what's happening. So then we pan back over to the other group, which is Heather, Tamara, and Gina. And they sit down and Gina's like, oh, how are y'all doing? Because she doesn't know about Jen doing the drive-by cussing out. And so Heather's like, girl, she got cussed out. All right. And Tamara's like, yeah, Shannon pumped her up and she got me cussed out. And Gina's like, yeah, I know, I was there. And so Heather is like, I understand why she's mad. She was like, nobody wants anybody digging up information on them. She said the same way I didn't like the fact that Katie was digging up information on me. So then that's when, what's her name? Tamara lets it be known that a situation happened that everybody's been privy to since like the beginning of the season, pretty much. So when there was that sit down between Tamara, her daughter, and Katie and her daughter, when they were making those candles, basically Katie pumped up her child to explain how when she was babysitting Emily's 2 twin boys, that they said that they did not like Heather because Heather was mean to their mom and she was bossy. So Heather is like, what? Are you serious? And she was like, yeah, she did. And Kylie, and you could tell that Kylie and Katie were happy to like divulge that information. So Heather kind of gets emotional and she's kind of like taken it back, like, oh, so now we talking badly about each other in front of our kids. Like, that's what we doing now. So then Gina swoops in and she's like, I spoke to Emily about that. She was like, Shane and Emily would not do nothing like that. They would never disrespect you or any of us in front of their kids. Like, they're just not like that. Okay. And honestly, I do believe that. Do I believe that they be talking bad about Heather? Yeah, but I don't think that they would do that in front of their like young kids. I can see people doing that in front of like their daughters. Like Kylie's 19, Shannon's daughters are like 19 or 20. That's different. So I don't think she would do that in front of her because little kids repeat stuff. All right. So basically Katie and her child were being messy because I was like, why would you even bring that to the camera like that? You wanted something to pop off. So Heather is really like annoyed and like really taken aback by it. And so Tamara says, I thought Gina was the one that pumped up Katie to do all these like things, to hold on to this information to come at Heather. But now I'm realizing Katie did this on her own. I don't believe Tamara. I just believe Tamara said, you know what? I'm not going to be the only one that's going to be in the hot seat. Okay. I'm not going to be the only one that everyone's going to be looking at sideways. Now we all going to be looking at Katie sideways and Shannon by the end of this episode. We find out that they're going to take etiquette classes while they, or etiquette course before they have dinner. And we see Tamara being told this by Heather, and she's over it. You see Jen ironing her clothes on FaceTime with Ryan. Ryan says the same thing, that Tamara ain't got no soul, after Jen tells Ryan about all the stuff that she went through with Tamara, looking up the information. So we see them all come downstairs and they sit down at the table, and they're at the restaurant. Emily is bitching at Katie because Katie gave her like laxatives that she got from her GI doctor, and Katie told Emily, oh, it's only going to take like maybe 8 hours. Girl, 8 hours turned into 2. And Emily said she's been going up and down to the bathroom. So she was like, if I leave this table, it's because I'm having diarrhea. The etiquette coach is looking at them like, okay. Okay. So while they're at the table, we find out that this whole group needs etiquette. Heather needs to stop pointing at people. They need to have straighter backs because all their posture is horrible. And you can't be throwing napkins at people. Basically, all of them got issues. So while they're sitting down at the table eating their food, they do like, what was the best part of the trip? What was the worst part of the trip? And so Gina says the worst part was having to wake up early in the morning to help Emily curl her hair. And the best part was that she actually got to see Shannon's kids before they left. So then Tamara says the worst part for her was that, the best part was like hanging out with everybody, but the worst part is Shannon trying to come in between her relationship with Jen. And so Shannon is like, how am I in this? And she was like, well, you are trying to sidestep accountability, because that conversation would have never happened because the text message thread was long as hell. And I know you didn't show her everything when we had that conversation because you were the one that asked for this information. And so Jen is looking at both Shannon and Tamara, and Jen is just kind of like, and then Tamara's like, well, I don't understand why Jen is just readily believing Shannon. And Shannon was just, Jen ends up saying, well, Shannon has been a way better friend to me than you have. And I've known you longer. So then that's when Tamara ends up calling Shannon a drunk, saying that, girl, you don't remember what you told me because you're a drunk. And it's like, okay, girl, we get it. Calling her a drunk every 10 minutes it's not working no more, Tamara. It's just not. And so like the shock value is gone. So then Jen gets pissed and she's like, I don't understand what's your issue with me? You keep looking up stuff on my man. Are you like that he's a bookie, that he's this, that he's that? Like, stop doing that stuff, or else. And then Tamara's like, or else what? He gonna put a hit out on me? And so that's when Katie is like, really? And then Heather's like, come on now. It ain't got to be all it is. So then Heather is getting uncomfortable because she's like, everybody's yelling at everybody. All the people in the restaurant are starting to look at them. And she's like, y'all are embarrassing me. Calm down. So then Jen gets mad. They start yelling back and forth. You see the people behind them staring at the table, something that I went to. That man was sitting there like, oh, so this is how the Americans get down. And she's like, you know what, Tamara, I'm done. Stop talking about my man. Zip it. And Tamara's like, zip it. I'm zipping. We're good. She was like, no, we're not good, but I'm done with this conversation. You can leave. That you always telling everybody to leave. And Tamara's like, no, you leave. So they going back and forth arguing. And Heather is just like, girl, calm down. Like, stop, Tamara. And then Gina is like, girl, y'all are like, stop. Like, you keep doing these things. Like, you're digging up information on her. And now it's kind of making us look at you like, are you digging up information on us? Like, that would make me not want to be around you. Gina also told Tamara, girl, stop calling Shannon a drunk. Like, it's offensive. You doing too much. So then that's when Tamara ends up being like, I'm sorry, and we're good. And so then Heather ends up being like, I've never seen Jen use her voice like this, and I'm impressed. A lot of y'all thought that was condescending. I didn't. Like, for the last year, Jen let Tamara play in her face. So I'd be impressed too. Because there's been last year, it was a lot like, last season, there was many a times where Jen should have hauled off and either popped Tamara in the mouth or like cussed her smooth clean out. And she never did it. She would always cry and accept that lady's apology. So the fact that she's standing up for herself now and she really sticking it to Tamara, I would be impressed too. I don't care if it's condescending. I'm impressed. The restaurant, and we see they break off into groups. So Tamara and Heather are together. together, Emily, Gina, and Shannon are together, and then Katie and Jen are together. So, Katie is like, do we ever have like, you know, nice dinners in this group? It's always fu tears happiness laughing, fu tears it's too much, it's too much. So they sit down, and Katie commends Jen on standing up for herself and creating clear boundaries with Tamra, told her she looked hot and said she was really proud of her. And that was a nice little conversation. Then we see the conversation between Shannon, Emily, and Gina. And they're asking her how she's been, and she's like, you know what, I'm over having issues with them. It's just been real difficult. It's been like too much with Tamra, and now a little bit of Heather. And she was like, well, Emily lets it be known that um Heather actually shared the full entire conversation that she had with Shannon earlier in the season about the accident, about her believing that John did know that she was in the accident, that he heard everything, and that he didn't come. So now she's really upset and feeling like she never should have shared with Heather or picked Heather to have the conversation with about her accident. So then while that's happening, we see the conversation between Heather and Shannon. No, Heather and Tamra, where Heather tells Tamra, stop focusing your energy on Shannon. You need to have a serious conversation with Jen and actually apologize for what you've been doing, because y'all friendship seems to be genuine. And she's just like, at this point, you need to be really sorry about what you're doing and just be like, you know what, I'm sorry and I'll never do it again. So then while they're talking, she was like, I think Tamara's like, what's really pissing me off is that Shannon is trying to get in between my relationship with Jen when she was also a part of that conversation. Because if we're talking about people digging up stuff, Shannon dug up information about Gina before we did the reunion. And Heather's like, what do you mean? So then she said, that whole article that came out in 2020 about Gina and Travis, and Gina possibly pushing Travis down the steps. So editor Leah here. Somehow this part of my video got cut out, and I don't know where that part of the clip is, but here we are. So after Tamara shares this information with Heather, Heather's like, what? Why would Shannon look up that information? And Tamara explains that Shannon reached out to John, which is Taylor's husband that we saw last season, and I guess he's an attorney, and Shannon asked Taylor's husband, John, to actually like go through Travis's divorce documents, like his court documents, to see if there was any like validity to this story, so she could have tea or something to hurl back at Gina at the reunion. So Heather's like, are you going to tell Gina? Because you need to tell Gina, because that's not okay. And so Tamara decides, yes, she's going to tell Gina this information, basically getting her lick back on Shannon for what she did to her when it comes to Jen. It's the next day, and we see that the girls are supposed to be going to like Windsor Castle, and they break up into two groups. We see a group of three where we see Emily, Tamara, and Heather in a group on a sprinter, and the other four girls in the sprinter. All of a sudden, Shannon is having stomach cramps, and she's feeling like she's about to pass out. She's constipated, and she needs to be unplugged. So we find out that Katie has a bunch of enemas, and so she gives Shannon one enema, and like it relieves her, but they end up not going to Windsor Castle. They end up telling the girls, hey, we'll meet y'all at the restaurant to have lunch. So while the other girls are like walking around the area, they take like that iconic picture that the Beatles have of them walking in the middle of the crosswalk. We see them feeding swans bread. Don't do that, okay? Like, if you ever want to feed, I think you can feed them like frozen food, like frozen vegetables, but do not feed swans bread. It actually causes them to get impacted, which causes them to be severely constipated and die. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I know people think it's cute, but it's actually, you're hurting the animals. You're actually killing them. So don't do that. But we see them sit down. And so Emily starts off the conversation with Heather where she was like, well, Gina told me, and we see a flashback of Gina telling Emily about the conversation that she had with Heather and Tamara about what Katie said. And so Emily ends up saying that's not how it went. She basically says that her boys told her that Katie's daughter said that she thought Heather was mean, and they told their parents that's what she said. So she's just like, I don't get where this conversation is saying that my kids were saying messed up things about you, because she's like, first of all, I don't like that because you're painting me out to be like a bad mom. Like, I gossip in front of my kids and speak disparagingly about my friends. And mind you, we know people do that. We do. But it's like, for it, this would have been a non-issue had Katie not brought it to the show. And Emily said she was never going to bring it up because she was just like, me and Shane had already talked about it, and we already said that we were not going to have Katie around our kids anymore. Not Katie, but Katie's daughter around our kids anymore, because why? And I'm kind of looking at Katie and her daughter like, why are y'all being messy like this? Especially Katie, because I'm like, girl, you kind of let your daughter open up to like ridicule in my eyes. Especially, and then the reason why I say that is because as much as people give Teresa's daughter as a Gia slack about being involved in the confrontations with like her uncle and her aunt and Teresa and all of them and Jackie and all of that stuff and Margaret, they could give Katie's daughter the same amount of energy, because now you're entering the conversation when you didn't need to be a part of it. And we know parents gossip in front of their kids, but this was messy. And it's not a good look, because I don't see kids just outright being messy like this, especially little kids, in the sense of like, if they get like, and I guess I'm basing this off of my cousins, because my cousins won't get messy until they get comfortable with you. You make them comfortable, the floodgates open, you know. But I don't know, you being a babysitter and they don't know you like that, I don't think that they would just like, it felt more like, it sounds like Katie's daughter was like guiding the conversation with these kids, but it's just like, it's not a good look. So, you know, Emily is like, this really could have messed up our friendship. And Heather's like, I understand, but you know, I'm done with Katie. She messed with the wrong Marine. I'm over her. So they end up getting a text about Shannon and the bathroom situation. And that's when Tamara was like, Shannon is just nervous because she knows I got tea on her, especially about this whole Gina situation. So Emily is like, what do you mean? And so that's when Tamara tells Emily about the situation, where she was like 6 months ago before the reunion, Shannon was looking for information to drop on Gina. And I believe it. And the reason why I believe it is because last season, they were not cool. Remember when Gina was like, my children, Shannon, my children, because Shannon said that she helped Gina out from her kids being taken away from her by CPS, and that pissed Gina off, and she had every right to be pissed. I feel like Shannon was digging up information to make herself like right and justify what she did. And so Tamara's like, are you serious? Not Tamara, but Emily's like, are you serious? Like, she really did that? Like, does Gina know? And Tamara's like, no. And Emily's like, you need to tell Gina, because that's not right, and that's totally messed up and like a violation of privacy. The three ladies make it to the restaurant, and while they're sitting there, next thing you know, the other girls show up. Gina went to the bathroom, and I guess she pulled the fire alarm thinking that it was the toilet, like the flush to the toilet. And they were like, girl, what? So then while they're sitting there, you see Tamara kind of just mean mugging Shannon, and Shannon kind of has her back towards Heather, and Heather's like, excuse me, why is your back toward me? What's up with that? And so Shannon is like, we need to have a talk. So we actually see them go outside to have a conversation. And while they're sitting there, Shannon ends up saying, well, I talked to Emily and they told me that the other night you told them that whole entire conversation that we had in Wine Country when I showed the picture, and I told you I wanted that to be in confidence. Heather ends up being like, she don't remember that. I said, girl, you lying. You lying. Heather was like, I was in total shock. Then Shannon ends up being like, well, honestly, it didn't even seem like you really care. You didn't check up on me. And Heather said, girl, don't cut the crap. Don't play with me like that. I did care. I was shocked. And then Heather is just like, honestly, it just feels like the same Shannon that I've been known to like be around. She ends up bringing up what happened. She was like, what happened last season? And she was like, girl, you told me that conversation was supposed to be in confidence, but then I find out that Tamara knows about the conversation. So I thought it was okay that we could all talk about. So then she brings up the whole thing. She said, honestly, it feels like you're doing what you did back in like 2014 with your whole divorce with David, where like everybody knew that David was cheating on you and was having an affair. And you were like trying to like, you know, control the narrative. And so then Shannon was like, I was trying to keep my family together. And Heather's like, I get that, but girl, but you was really like only like dropping information towards us. And then all of us were like running around with chickens with our heads cut off, not really knowing what was going on and not having the full context of the story. What it honestly boils down to is that Shannon and Heather don't trust each other. Heather has never really liked Shannon, and Shannon has never really liked Heather. And it's very much so like, it's a trait of a Capricorn. And as a Capricorn myself, if I feel like you did me wrong and you've never apologized for it or never shown me that like you really cared about me or that you're sorry for what you did to me, I don't we yeah, I don't see it for you. And I don't think Heather has ever really felt genuineness from Shannon and vice versa. So they both kind of like they don't trust each other. And I think Shannon was trying to this season start off on a good foot with Heather and actually like trust her and give her a chance. But Heather messed it up because she really ultimately doesn't see Shannon as like a real friend or as somebody that she can trust. So she probably felt like Shannon was trying to play her like she did the previous season. And so she was like, I'm going to do one better and play you before you play me. But ultimately it made Heather look bad because it's like, girl, you betrayed her trust and y'all were just talking about working on getting to a better place and it makes you look bad. Still like Heather though. I mean, I know y'all don't because y'all be saying it in the comments, but that's not going to sway my opinion about my girl. But this was not her best look, okay? It wasn't. She looked bad, all right? So she apologizes to Shannon and they kind of move on. But the truth of the matter is, Heather's not going nowhere and neither is Shannon. They filmed a Deadpool commercial, Deadpool and Wolverine. The network is not getting rid of Heather and they're not getting rid of Shannon. So all the people hoping that Heather gets fired, y'all can cancel Christmas on that one. She would have to walk away like she did before, or she would have to walk away because the fact that they asked her back says a lot, okay? Same with Phaedra. The fact that they begged Phaedra to come back says a lot to me. That they see some type of value in her and she doing something over there for Bravo. But Heather apologizes and they kind of move on. So she's like, let's go back in. So while they go back into while they were out sitting on the porch having their conversation, we end up seeing Tamara basically tell Gina, you know what? I didn't like how you said that you were afraid that I was digging up information on you and I can't be trusted, but yet you being friends with Shannon, and Shannon is the one that was asking Taylor about 6 months ago or 7 months ago during the reunion, do you have information on this case about Gina shoving Travis down the steps? And so Gina is like, what? And she's like, yeah. And Emily kind of makes a face like she not lying. So then Gina ends up being like, Gina knows that Tamara is only telling her this information because Shannon threw Tamara under the bus. She just hates the fact that her and Jen are now collateral damage. And she says that pretty much so. And she's like, yeah, she dug up information on you. So what we find out is that Gina ends up saying that was Travis's ex, that she was like, that lady is not a good person. And she was the one that put the information out there. But there's nothing going on between me and Travis, and that never happened. And so when Shannon and Heather come back in, Gina's just like looking at Shannon, and so now they get into it because Tamara tells Shannon and Tamara start arguing back and forth, where Shannon is like, okay, Tamara, this is the second time you called me a liar. I'm not a liar. And Gina's like, well, did you look up that information? And Shannon was like, Shannon never said no. She never said no, which makes me feel like, yeah, girl, you did. And she was like, well, no, Tamara wanted that information. No, you wanted that information to come back at Gina. And you didn't think Tamara was going to hit that Uno reverse on you after you threw her under the bus about Jen. Girl, you know your friend, just like you know yourself. And so Jen is just like, I don't want to be like, she was like, it sucks that we're collateral damage in y'all situation. Then as Tamara and Shannon are arguing, you got Tamara leaning over the table and Shannon's like, girl, sit down, don't get in my face. And Tamara's like, you gonna hit me? And everyone's like, Tamara, for real, Tamara? For real? And I'm like, Tamara, ain't nobody gonna hit nobody. So then I think Shannon brings up like, well, you were going to start all that stuff about the FBI with Jen because, like, what'd you tell Katie? So then Katie jumps in and she was like, yeah, you did tell me about the FBI. And Tamara says the only reason she brought that whole situation up is because Ryan hurt her. And Jen is like, how did Ryan hurt you? What are we talking about? And I guess Tamara's talking about the whole podcast situation. Then Shannon is like, Tamara, this is what you do. You get drunk and you hurt people and you make all these things. And then Tamara was like, girl, at least I don't run my car into people's houses. I said, well, she got a point. She got a point. So then Shannon just gets angry. She's like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm tired of this, whatever. And so she gets up and she leaves. As she's leaving, The wait like staff is coming in with a birthday cake with, happy 60th birthday. And Shannon's like, I'm done. Like, she walks outside, rips off her mic, throws it on the table. Everybody else is sitting at the table laughing because this is chaotic and it's crazy and it's mess. It's mess. Yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic and definitely hop down in the comments below. If you like what you heard, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm enjoying this season. This has been a good season. Everybody put in work. Even, soulless, crazy, chaotic, insane Tamra. Without Tamra, this season would not be as good as it is. Like, everybody has been like firing on all cylinders, and I've been enjoying it. I'm gonna miss it when it's over, but I'm out, y'all. Deuces.